You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
And today we are having a fantastic day because today Mo's doing nothing. Today, Chip is presenting this episode, if you will, about the Phoenix Lights. And I'm really excited because we've brought this up. I don't know how many times we've actually brought it up during the podcast.
We have, quite a few.
We have brought it up to each other before and after and in conversations and during live shows a lot. But before we get started, here is a word from Mikey and our sponsor.
This episode is presented by Wild CBD. Wild produces the best tasting edibles on the market using real fruit and all natural flavoring. With flavors inspired by the Pacific Northwest, high quality ingredients, real fruit, and consistent dosing, Wild has become one of the leading cannabis edible producers in the country. Wild's new CBD line currently offers real fruit infused gummies in flavors of blackberry, huckleberry, lemon, raspberry, and CBD infused sparkling water in raspberry, lemon, blackberry, and blood orange. Each gummy is dosed with 25 milligrams of CBD and can be purchased in a bottle of 10 or 20. Wild CBD is offering our listeners 30% off their next purchase from wildcbd.com. That's with a Y, by using the code POD. That's code POD for 30% off your next purchase. Wild CBD products are intended only used for individuals age 18 and older. Wild CBD products should only be consumed as directed on a label and should not be used if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. All Wild CBD products are made with ingredients containing 0% THC. Consult with a health professional prior to using Wild CBD in combination with any medications or other dietary supplements.
And that link, of course, is in the show notes. I really want their sparkling water CBD to take over White Claw. You know my feelings on White Claw.
100%.
Greatest point of tension between Mo and Nicole.
We don't have any CBD drinks in our store that I work in, the dispensary I work at, but I can't wait till we do.
So exciting.
I'm an official bud tender now. I just got my license.
What was the test?
Not really license, certificate. It was like 80 questions about cannabis, THC, and usage and dosage and things of that nature.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Get that in combination with our hypnotism.
We're gonna start an empire. Also, catch my tarot gig on Fiverr, kids.
Yes. Yes.
We're over here starting an empire.
Yes, we are.
We need to make a spooky themed strand, is what we need.
There you go.
Those drinks for the Patreon.
Moving on, shall we? Chip is going to tell us about the Phoenix Lights, and that's all the introduction we need, because otherwise I'll just talk about the Phoenix Lights for 10 minutes.
And Mo proceeded to do the episode for me. Mo's like, I'm not doing any work.
I'm shocked.
This is my day, okay? I'll use it however I want.
It's my day to do nothing, so I will do it all.
If I don't have to do it and I'm doing it by choice, it's different.
It's different.
I like how you just called me out, but I'm gonna edit you out, so who's tough now?
Blooper reel. Blooper Mo. Save us. I gotta commit to the bit. I'm doing the whole bit, so there's a bit. Picture it. Phoenix, 1997. It's a mild March evening, around 8 p.m. The Hale-Bopp comet is due to be visible in the coming weeks, and some of the city's residents have moved outside with the hope of catching an early glimpse. Amateur astronomers and astrophotographers turn their telescopes and cameras to the sky, searching. Others are simply out by chance, driving home from work or fiddling with their air conditioners. We see a young boy playing in his room with his stuffed animals. We pan out the window and turn to the night sky. Above, a series of lights shine there, neither stars nor comets. Reports begin to come in from across the city. Hundreds, thousands of people see the lights, conflicting reports ranging from 3, 6, 7, or even more lights that are red, orange, yellow, or white. Some say they see a single object with lights on the edge. Others claim the lights are separate objects flying in formation, like a flock of geese. Eventually, these reports will be sorted into two general events. The first is a V-shape of lights that seems to travel from southern Nevada down to Tucson, Arizona over the course of an hour, approximately 400 miles. Most reports say that these lights are red or orange. At least one claims that the lead light of the V was white. They are first seen in Henderson, Nevada at about 7:55 p.m. Arizona time, of course. A man sees a single object with 6 red lights, approximately the size of a Boeing 747. Next, the lights are briefly spotted above Paulden, Arizona, about 20 minutes later. They appear as a cluster of 5 red lights that fly across the sky and out of view of the man's binoculars within 2 minutes. In Nevada and northern Arizona, most people are saying the lights are high off the ground, but that'll change soon enough. There are a myriad of sightings over the Prescott Valley reported to the police, news media, UFO organizations, and the Air Force. Red, yellow, or white lights are seen traveling across the sky for 5 minutes, heading southwest. Finally, 25 minutes later, the lights appear above Phoenix. For 10 minutes, there are dozens of sightings, and eventually there will be thousands in the weeks and years to come. They all vary as much as the earlier sightings. Here, some people see the unidentified objects as flying incredibly low over the city without making a sound. The sightings in Phoenix trail off about 8:30 p.m. The final major sighting of the traveling V formation comes 100 miles south in Tucson. Around 8:40, the lights are seen for about 10 minutes before disappearing beyond the Santa Catalina Mountains to the northwest. The sightings end just before 9 p.m. The second event begins over an hour later. Dozens of photos and videos are taken of the half-hour event. They show lights flashing in formations, appearing for a minute or so, and then disappearing. Again, accounts and videos differ. Some have lights flashing in sequence in a V formation. Some see a single large object with lights around its rim. Others see distinct separate objects near each other, hovering midair. Still, other camps proclaim to see distinct objects and lights that fall downward as they disappear. The second event ends, and we see the young boy again, cuddled in his bed, oblivious to the soon-to-be infamous event he has just lived through. That young boy was me. And those lights were aliens.
This is why we don't have Chip write episodes during Nano. Actually, wait, I take it back. Chip,
I love it. Why don't we have Chip write more?
No, I planned to do this before I knew I was writing it during Nano. Back when we were doing it last week, I was like, I should do this.
Yes.
So, we got the 2 separate events, which I'm going to call the Traveling V and the Hovering V, and I don't know why other people haven't, have a standardized naming convention yet. What the fuck? Infuriatingly to me, there are a handful of sources that are like, oh, they're even seen as far as Sonora, Mexico, and then not a single one actually has even a sentence about Mexico.
Really?
There are lots of Mexico. I don't know. Maybe.
Interesting.
So what I think is the most important thing to remind people about this event, especially people that were too young to remember at the time, or for whatever reason just missed it, they reported on this as it was happening in places that weren't Phoenix. So, for example, they were covering this on the Detroit news when I was a kid. My parents are, making dinner, they're doing something, and I'm an anxious child that at all times I'm like, this is me, I'm the center of attention, let me sing you a song, give me 25 cents for a ticket to my show. Of course I was. But when I was anxious, I would just get really quiet and internal because any reason I could be freaking out is silly. And I remember the news anchor, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she said something very alarming in a very news anchor voice, like, are we being invaded by aliens? Who knows? There's lights over Phoenix, more at 11. It was just one of those things.
Back to you, Jim.
Are we all gonna die? Maybe. But first, let's check out the weather.
It's cloudy with a chance of fire raining down from above.
See, I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either. I was asleep.
I don't remember or recall it. In fact, the first time I looked up Phoenix Lights was when the first time one of you brought it up during a podcast episode to familiarize myself with.
I think I maybe wouldn't remember if I hadn't been traumatized.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, totally.
Are the aliens coming? Yes or no?
The V-shaped is what's interesting to me. Are you sure someone didn't just tie some crazy lights to a flock of geese? It is a flock, right? No, a gaggle of geese.
I did see that specific theory. However, now we have.
Well, one, they were stationary, which I think is important.
It depends on which lights you're talking about.
Well, yeah. But hovering for that long, a flock of geese can travel pretty fast and pretty far.
Yeah, depending on the wind,
I
yeah.
don't know, at 400 miles an hour.
But two, something I think, no, I'm not going to say it. I was going to say something that I think Chip's about to get to, is we have a very reliable source.
Spoilers! There's a notable witness to the events.
That we'll get to later. He's above reproach, really, is what I would say. But we'll get to it.
There's a lot of reports from that same night across Arizona that, like, are vaguely similar, but also they're not in the flight path, so it's confusing to, if you want to make a unified theory, why are we only uniting these events, but these other ones are disregarded? It's unclear to me. For one, there was a sighting in Casa Grande, which is southwest of Phoenix. It was about 8 p.m., and they saw a similar phenomenon. It was, I think, 6 lights at that one. But at 8 p.m., it was over in Nevada, so probably not the same.
So what time did the lights start?
7:55 p.m. Arizona time.
But when people report times that they saw things, like, people get times wrong a lot. Like, that's a frequent thing.
Which is fair, but at a certain point, news cameras started filming it, and it was live on
What?
TV.
And if it's, like, so far from the flight path that it couldn't be seen, then it's a different story, but...
But then it brings up the question, how many are there?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And to me, if there's an event this big... If it was having anything to do with aliens, there's a good chance that somewhere else, something else was happening at the same time. Just strategically.
Yeah, true.
Basic military tactics.
Exactly.
I just don't get why we unite these threads. Wouldn't it make more sense to go off the assumption that they're related in that they are the same organization, but they're not the same literal object flying from Nevada?
Did the U.S. government and Air Force claim that they had no part in that or any type of involvement at all?
Eventually, the explanations are the Traveling V there's Operation Snowbird, which was essentially training for Air Force in other states and sometimes other countries, would come to Arizona because the air is very nice. The weather is perfect for flying, so training here is much nicer. And they take similar flight paths to the one if they go up to Nevada and they're coming back to their base down in Tucson. It's a very similar flight path. So that's explanation for the traveling one. And the hovering one was said to be a different Air Force squadron, was returning from a training at the Barry Goldwater Air Force Base down southwest of Phoenix, and coming to Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix. But they had flares from their training exercise, and they're not allowed to land with flares in the plane, like still going. I assume it's a fire hazard.
Right.
So they had to set them off before they
So they claimed that it was just probably aircraft vehicles, basically?
Yeah.
And flares from aircraft vehicles.
But like, do they have the documents or anything, like, to prove that was the case, or that just their guess, their educated guess?
I mean, they have the documents saying, hey, these planes flew here at this time.
Right, okay.
But what I find the funniest about just the explanations from the government is that in the first couple weeks / month or whatever, all the various governments, the federal, the state, and the city, were all like, that's not my jurisdiction, I'm not going to investigate.
Right.
Like, I don't want to deal with that. And the state's like, I don't want to deal with that. And the city's like, we don't have airplanes. We can't investigate this. We don't have an air force. So it was a while before
they could have came up with a, hey, this is what happened, could go either way.
The first thing that anyone said about it was the next day, the governor at the time, Fife, is that his name? Fife. He's relevant. Fife Symington. Governor Fife Symington had a press conference the next day. I don't think it was called solely over the lights. It was a additional
point of interest
press conference. And he announced that the perpetrators of last night's events had been apprehended, and he then proceeded to bring out his assistant, who was in an alien costume. So, there's your first official comment from the government.
I love it.
I don't think that there would have been any way for them to never address it. I think they were trying to be like, yeah, that's not our jurisdiction, and just run around the issue and not address it. But at the end of the day, as soon as the news stations in Phoenix picked it up, it then became national news.
Yeah, right.
And still, I cannot recall anything else in my lifetime, at least, that was possible aliens on the actual news being reported on as news. Not only not as a joke,
War of the Worlds.
But, yeah.
And this was in 97, right?
97.
So far out of the times where everything was aliens, right?
Well, this would kickstart another alien.
Right, but like it wasn't that...
The alien renaissance.
Yeah, the alien renaissance. You know what I mean, right? Like...
Yeah, I don't think it was particularly big, although Arizona is apparently a hotbed for UFO sightings. There were plenty of lights sighted before this and after this and in the years to come.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that in 97, the movie Men in Black came out.
What year was that? What month was that?
But it's very obvious, like, looking at the video and from the news, this wasn't something that was, like, a hoax people made up. Like, you can say, oh, I think it was this or I think it's that, but it's definitely not a hoax. It's not something that somebody doctored. It's not something that somebody wanted it to look like aliens and did it. It's a thing that took place and was being speculated on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas seeing things everywhere just because aliens are popular. Like, remember those kids that were, like, running around forks? Biting people? It's not
I saw some kids biting.
It wasn't that.
There were vampires.
Yeah. I've always wanted a twin for that specific kind of purpose. So that somebody can think I can run fast. You know what I'm talking about?
Or
like,
teleport.
I'm just there in front of them, and then they're like, what? And then they start running the other way, and I'm in front of them again, but it's not me.
You know, this just made me realize that we couldn't possibly be in the darkest timeline, because Mo doesn't have a twin.
You mean the best timeline.
All of those timelines are worse, for everyone except Mo.
I don't know if I or the world would benefit if I had a twin. I don't... I think we'd only encourage each other.
Yes.
Escalating series of dares that culminate in death. Or world domination. There are only two options. So there's one person in particular who supports the aliens theory who I want to point out as not pleasant, and her name is Lynn Kitei. 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 And she was a medical doctor with an MD before this. And, like, in the months before the March 13th, 1997 Phoenix Lights, she had seen lights and was, like, vaguely documenting them. And then after this, she gave up her practice as a doctor, like, left her wherever she worked, and dedicated herself fully to alien research.
Is it bad that I want that in my life? Like, I feel so like Mulder Scully I want to believe right now. Can you imagine you're a medical doctor and something happens to you that in your view of the world shakes your belief system and what you believe to the core so much that you forget the $100,000 of debt you have from becoming a doctor and all of the money that you could have being a doctor and having things paid off, because you're not going to have anything paid off. You're going to go investigate aliens. That's amazing.
Totally.
Except,
oh no,
the entire reason I bring her up is because I don't think she left because she was, like, ignoring the debt. I think she's making money. She's making a lot of money. She does conventions. Obviously, she writes books. Everyone writes books. But she does a lot of radio appearances. There's a whole Phoenix Lights convention every year. She's, like, not making doctor money, but she's making way less effort than a doctor has to.
Yeah. No deaths on your conscience, because, let's be honest, every doctor at some point, by mistake or by not knowing something, leads to the death of their patient. Right? Mm-hmm. We can all agree that happens to every doctor.
Yeah.
And that's just a thing about being a doctor, and that's the risk you take for having a doctor. Sorry, but that's just the truth. They're not omniscient.
Unfortunately, they're human.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have none of those pressures anymore, especially if a lot of people go through medical school and then they're like, wow, I actually hate this. I just spent all this money to hate this. That's unfortunate.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that so many times.
I'm in my residency, and I never want to do this again.
Yeah, and now she's just going to she's living my best life personally. She hangs out at conventions. We've all been to that convention. You hang out, you just get drunk with Percy Weasley, just as an example of something that might happen to you.
A weird hypothetical.
Just a weird hypothetical, and you just have a good time. That's fantastic. Oh my god. I want this lady's life. We can never have her life. Do you want to know why? I was thinking about this the other day. Just by having this podcast, we are now unreliable narrators. So if something happened to us tomorrow... No, really, think about this. Tomorrow you're actually abducted by aliens. You are part of this show.
The brand.
You are part of this show, and therefore, it does not matter what you say. It is like the most skeptical anyone will ever be about your story because you were involved in something seeking this out.
But also, if the aliens abduct me tomorrow, they will beam me up and they will say, "No one will ever believe you," and then just beam me back down.
And that's it. That's the whole show.
You're right.
But I think about this a lot. Eventually, we'll cover Mothman and a lot of things coming out of West Virginia, Men in Black. But John Keel, who wrote the Mothman prophecies, he handled himself in a very skeptic, scientific way. But at the end of the day, he was so into different fringe sciences and trying to put science into fringe sciences that no matter what he ever says, a lot of people will just say no. Like, you looked for something and you found it. Whereas I don't feel like he was looking for anything specific, but it doesn't matter to a lot of people.
The branding. Ruined.
It's well, honestly, people that know us.
Right.
They would still listen, but nobody else.
They are our patrons.
Yeah.
You just have to get physical video evidence, you know?
There's video of the goddamn lights in the sky.
Knowing my luck, my phone would be dead when I got abducted, so...
Yeah, but that's the thing. Not only do you have to catch it on video, but it has to be proven. And how many things do you know that people have got video?
Oh, I would FaceTime be like, you want to talk to this alien?
Call me Bigfoot.
And it's very convincing video footage. Even though it can't be explained, that just means it can't be explained. So still it's not quite taken seriously. Because it's not seen as proof enough. It's like, well, there's probably an explanation for it. Nobody knows what it is, but there probably is one. So it really wouldn't even matter if you had video footage. If it was a very convincing one-on-one FaceTime with an alien, people would still be like, oh, I wonder how he did that. Probably CGI. Like, somebody would come up.
Right, totally.
With something.
And that would be reasonable. If you're having a face-to-face with an alien, the logical conclusion is not this alien is real. It's, wow, how did they do that, the face-masking thing from Snapchat so good?
Totally. 100%.
So basically, modern technology has ruined the ability to prove anything.
Yeah, it's true.
By documenting everything, we can prove nothing.
True.
Because there were people who, for the Phoenix Light, they, like, in the moment they were telescoping and they calculated, like, no, that has to be separate objects. And then other people who looked at the videos and did the, light analysis of what's on the screen. I don't know how that works. I'm not a video engineer, but they analyzed the video and says, okay, it has to be XYZ, but no one cares either way.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, at one point I was like, I wonder how far the human eye can see light. Like, what distance can you see light? So I started Googling and I ended up on mirages as light at night. And apparently you can see mirage light, like, very far at night. Like, it's surprising. Reflections of nothing can be seen at a great distance.
But the thing about reflections is that reflections only appear at certain angles. So if you have somebody in a 360-degree circle all seeing the same damn thing, it's not a reflection.
But they're not seeing all the same damn thing. They all have different responses. This had only red lights. This one had red and yellow lights. This one had all red lights except for one white light.
Well, that's going to happen with perspective, too. Though, like, if I see one side of a craft and there's yellow lights, because that's the side that they land on, right? And the other side only has red lights, because that's tail end, and it doesn't need the other lights.
Right, where you're seeing it head on. Right, you're seeing it head on, and maybe the yellow lights are at the back of the vehicle. Yeah,
it's making the assumption that from all angles of whatever the V craft is, that it would look the same. And cars wouldn't look the same from the front or the back or the side.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But then how do you corroborate those stories with each other? How do you take someone who testifies about the front of a car?
You have to be cooperating with people that would have had a very similar or the same angle as them. So people that are in their direct neighborhood, like on their street, are they all seeing kind of the same thing? And then somebody that's 6 blocks away, what are they seeing and what's their street seeing? And you need to keep doing that and repeating it.
Right.
To get a full picture. Like you're 3D modeling it basically from all these different angles of different viewers. Obviously, there's also the thing that the human brain, if I witness a robbery in front of me, I might think that the guy has red and blue striped shirt on, but he might have had like an orange with slight blue. Right. And it's a completely different thing, and it actually really changes the makeup of it with that one detail.
Right. Well, and you see it with LED lights, too. Like, you put red and green together, and it becomes a yellowish orange when they're next to each other, because they're emitting so closely together. So you, like, angles and color combinations can affect things, too. Also, you have to take in that, people are colorblind. People see different shades of color, and, you can see this image that has 6 different colors on it. I can see all 6 colors, but not everyone else can. Those things that you see.
Me and Musbin just did this today. He goes, how many colors do you see? And I go, 5. And he said, I can only see 3. And then I pointed them out to him, and then he looked really hard, and he's like, I think I see it now. This is where the line is. See how this is kind of tinged green, and that's the only difference. It's just a slight tinge. And
and you post that on social media, and you get all these responses, and everyone's different. Somebody sees 6 or 5
the
or
dress,
4.
Bitch. What color's the dress?
Right. What color is the dress?
Also, it's blue and black. But anyways,
it's totally white and gold.
Okay, but you're wrong. You're
okay, but I'm not wrong.
You're verifiably wrong.
I'm not wrong.
Here, reality is an illusion, and everything.
That's
is
a different
relative.
episode,
So,
son. Different episode.
We just got on this. Witness testimony unreliable.
That's true.
But the one witness we can rely on is Governor Fife Symington.
Oh.
Because...
Boo. I thought we were to the part.
I know. I'm just edging you. At the time, he didn't say that he had seen anything. But then in 2007 and then in 2008, there were 2 more notable things that people were like, these are the Phoenix Lights, blah, blah, blah. They weren't. Even the believers don't believe these. But in 2007, he was interviewed for a documentary, and he then admitted he did see them, and he, being a former Air Force something or other pilot, he described them as otherworldly and likely an alien spacecraft.
Really?
So after his mocking press conference...
That's funny. Did he describe any colors?
I didn't see him, give a specific description of what he saw, except, I think it was aliens.
Interesting.
That feels very Jesse Ventura to me. Former professional wrestler, then he was the governor of, I think, Missouri. And then he retired and was like, the government's fucked, y'all. He had his own show that was like, aliens are real, government bunkers are real, it's all real. I'm telling you, it's real. I can't figure out if being in government, you were just like, this is bullshit, power to the people, or if you wanted to retire, and so you didn't want to wrestle either, and so you combined them into this conspiracy person. But either way, I adore him and his content.
Well, I mean, there could be a third option. He could be telling the truth.
But that's what I'm saying. I can't tell if he realized shady shit was going on, and he was like, oh no, the people have to know. Let's tell the people. I can't tell. It really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, the entertainment's the same. It's like Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
Are you not entertained?
Apparently, at the time, though, the Governor Fife, he tried to quietly make his own little private investigation into what happened, but nothing came of it. Got nowhere.
How can you be the government of a state that something happens in, and they're just like,
and
we don't know. You can't get any information. That's insane.
Well, unless he launched it and then got information that it was supposed to be covered up. That could always be a thing. That happens in government, right?
What?
Or in documentaries, or missing murder cases.
You're not wrong.
Too soon? Oh.
I have the explanation, and it is seated in my bonus fact. Bonus, he resigned from being governor after he was convicted for extortion and bank fraud. And that happened in 1997, so he didn't have time.
Interesting.
Was he extorting the alien?
Maybe he's the one that they pinned it all on.
Have we considered...
What is the truth?
That he was extorting the alien.
Aliens. We have considered aliens, yes. That's the name of the episode.
Okay, obviously, we can't trust him, but we can trust someone else. Tell us, Chip. Get to the good shit.
Kurt Russell.
We can trust Kurt Russell.
Once upon a time, Kurt Russell was flying his plane because, of course, Kurt Russell has his pilot's license. He's flying his son to Phoenix because he wants to visit a friend, the son, just because. And he's coming in over Sky Harbor, and he's like, huh, those are weird lights. And the son is like, Dad, what are those? He's like, I don't know. So he radios into the air traffic control. He's like, do you guys see anything? There's stuff. And they're like, no, we're not seeing anything on radar. And he's like, well, that's weird. That there's a UFO. You know, it's unidentified. It's flying, and it's an object. I think he says it's multiple objects. He's someone who saw multiple objects. And then he lands, and then he forgets about it for 10 years.
So Kurt Russell completely forgets about it. He walks into the living room.
Wouldn't you follow it?
No, he has this kid
He never
in the
thought
plane.
about it again?
So he walks in, and Goldie Hawn is watching a documentary on the Phoenix Lights. He just kind of hears it in the background, and he's like, wait a second, like, turn that up. So Goldie Hawn turns it up, and they're talking about the pilot that called in the Phoenix Lights that helped bring attention from different military operations and specifically air traffic control, because that's who he contacted. And it's his voice. And he goes, oh my God, that's me. That's me. So he goes back into whatever his study. He gets out his flight logs, because you have to keep your flight logs. So he has these books with all of his flight logs in them. And he sees that on that night, he was flying into Phoenix, and then he's starting to think about it. It comes to him, this is what happened. Not only did he never tell anyone again, it literally fell out of his head. His son never mentioned it, he never mentioned it, he never thought of it ever again until he heard his own voice on the television. And he said the creepiest part about any of it had nothing to do with seeing the lights, even though he was kind of sketched. He was like, that doesn't look right.
It was the forgetting part?
It was the forgetting part. It was the fact that before he even landed, he forgot about it. He didn't tell anybody when I got off the plane. Him and his son didn't talk about it. He never told his wife, Goldie Hawn. He never told anybody about it.
Well, then close the case. It was the Men in Black. They did the flashy thingy.
Right? They did the flashy
Seriously.
thingy.
They didn't do it flashy well enough because it came back. And his son, too, was like, nah, I didn't think about it until you mentioned
They
it.
totally
Yeah.
flashed their asses. They got flashed.
Kurt Russell got flashed. Breaking news!
So I had only heard, there was like rumors of this, and then Kurt Russell was asked on a talk show while doing press for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and Kurt Russell tells this story, and Chris Pratt's face is just, what is happening? What did I just walk into? How have you never brought this up? Like, how does something like this happen? And the first thing people don't say to you is like, oh yeah, one time I saw aliens, what I think could possibly be aliens in the sky. And the lights isn't what convinced him that it was possibly otherworldly. It was pretty much forgetting everything until that very moment of hearing his own voice.
I still would have chased it. If I was flying, I would have went towards the lights. I would not have landed.
That's why you're dead. There are many universes in which you're dead.
He has his son in the plane with him.
Curiosity killed the Mikey. I am on with air traffic control. I am on line.
Just constantly reporting. Okay, I'm flying.
They can hear me talking. Like, what could happen? I could get flashed.
Contact.
You could get flashed, conjunctivitis.
You could get anally probed.
Yeah.
Consensually or unconsensually. This
For
is
some
important.
other people, not their cup of tea, you know?
Consent is important, aliens.
I doubt that. They're like, sign this form. You're not going to remember that you signed it anyway, but trust me.
I mean, we have a paper trail.
Trust me, I'm an alien doctor.
Wow, he's an alien doctor.
How much do you make? Alien daddy!
Yeah, I had no idea about the Kurt Russell thing until I was just looking through various articles, and it's like one of those mid-article links that's like, related story, Kurt Russell saw the Phoenix Lights. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And it isn't even just that he saw saw the lights, that he's the pilot. They talked about the pilot for years, that a pilot had phoned it in.
How did they not know it was him?
How did he not know that it was him?
Well, no, how did they not, like, release his name and, like, the call logs? Like, that's all documented stuff, isn't it? Once they investigated into Phoenix Lights, there's so many investigations, right? Like, wouldn't his name come up that he was the one that made the call?
But also, most people probably wouldn't think that this is the Kurt Russell that is in.
Right? It's not even like, the name is Cher. Cher.
I feel like somebody would have investigated that, though, and been like, is this the real Kurt Russell?
They probably had the call and the audio of the call, obviously, because they played it on that documentary that whatever Goldie Hawn was watching at the time. But nobody came and followed up with him.
Or there's one guy out there who knew, he was convinced it was Kurt Russell, but no one would believe him, because that's so stupid. Why would you make up that Kurt Russell saw the Phoenix Lights?
What year did Stargate come out? He must have been like, this is a wild ride. I'm living a wild life.
Yep, this is afterwards.
So you guys are flying a plane and you see this unidentified flying object. You don't go towards it?
No.
I still can't wrap my head around that. Really?
Okay, take the simplest cause that you can think of, which is probably military maneuvers, right? I'm not following planes doing military maneuvers.
That's how you get murdered.
There are a lot of places where you can't even go over certain airspaces. Like, I'm not fucking with military maneuvers. Yeah, you need to back down. You're gonna get shot. And I'm just like, I just want to figure out what the pretty lights are doing. And they're just like, ma'am, I'm having a bad day. Please don't make me kill you and blow up your tiny, rickety plane.
Everyone's gonna see this Phoenix Light.
Yeah. I'm a leaf on the wind.
Oh, watch how I die.
I don't know. If I see Bigfoot on the edge of the forest, I'm going towards Bigfoot. I'm not running around.
That's different, though. That's not the government.
It's absolutely
the government will kill
How is
you.
it different? You're running towards an unidentified creature that is twice your size.
I'll take my chances with Bigfoot rather than the government.
First of all, it's probably a bear, so we're running even faster.
How do you know it was the government? That's the thing. You have to investigate first. You can't just be like, that's the government.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you don't know that it's the government, but the first reaction in your head would be trying to rationalize, and when you try and rationalize, you're going to think, well, it's probably the government, or the government is probably testing secret shit. Maybe I don't entrench myself in this.
But then rationally thinking, you can communicate. They're going to communicate if it's the government and they don't want you near them.
Also, we're missing the very important part that you're flying a plane at night, and you can't really see what you're flying at. That's dangerous. That's Pilot 101. You're not like, let's fly towards the thing that I might crash into. Especially when he pages down to them.
And I wouldn't take risks with my kid. The risks that I would take with myself are wildly different.
That's different.
Like, not even necessarily my kid, just kids in general. Like, my niece, I wouldn't be like, all right, wave down Bigfoot. Run, get him!
If it was me in the co-pilot seat.
Oh, yeah. Suddenly Mo's flying extra fast.
I'd be encouraging her.
I was just gonna say, if I was by myself, I probably wouldn't, but Mikey would be like, let's get him, and I'd be like, yeah! I would just change.
Series of escalating days.
Exactly. I bet you won't. I bet I will! Like...
And there was a streak across the sky.
And then afterwards, of course, when we're shot down, in my dying breath, I'd be like, oh, your fault, but... it would be too late. It wouldn't even matter.
Exactly. And Mikey says, "Worth
it." But if we discovered the aliens and I totally pitched to go chase it, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I discovered the aliens. It was my idea. I went towards it."
Mikey's just telling you it was his idea because that's what I wrote him to say. Pay no attention.
All right, I'm still going with the geese.
Ow!
Albatrosses?
No, worse. What?
Very specific. What are the migration patterns?
We were just talking about albatrosses. That's why. During the Omens episode. Right. And for some reason, out of all the things to permeate into Mikey's head, that's what it was.
It could have been pterodactyls.
Jurassic Park.
We had to go to Jurassic Park, right?
It was pterodactyls with little lights in their mouths. They were Christmas, but they were late because it was March.
I don't know that it was aliens, but I don't think it is something ordinary, and I don't think it's what they say it is. I can go with we were testing drones in 1997. They were testing this, that, or the other thing that they didn't want to tell us, and we won't learn about it for 40 years until it comes into the FBI vault. But what they're saying is bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
I don't trust anyone who says aliens if they get paid for it, and I don't trust the government if they get to
You make a good point, because it could have been drones because they didn't have patents and it was testing and everything else. They didn't want that to get out.
Right, and it didn't show up on the radar when Kurt Russell phoned it in.
Right.
So
right.
They're trying to do that sort of thing. They're trying to develop that technology.
Yeah, I would think that it's something patent pending or government related that they just didn't want out.
Right, and the reason they, shuffle their feet and waste their time is like, okay, if we make them think we're hiding aliens, then they're not going to look for our murder drones.
Very well could be.
I'm going with aliens. I just have a lot of feelings about the Phoenix Lights.
You decided this back when you were...
I decided this at 10 years old. I'm going with aliens.
I knew it then, and I know it now.
Future alien daddy, make it Michigan next time, and I'll see you then.
Call me Alien Daddy.
Text us or tweet us your opinions on the Phoenix Lights. Our number is 313-355-3411. We want your opinions.
You could even call it and give us a video recording of your voice, and we will play it here and argue with you, but you won't be able to argue back.
I'm sure that sounds like a good time to someone.
Everyone's got their fetish.
Realistically, adult Mo goes with government, but I want to believe.
Mo's brain says government, but Mo's heart says aliens.
That's exactly what it is.
Clearly large birds with lights attached to them.
Okay, I might be taking the pterodactyls stance. That might be...
Yes! I love when Chip and I go against Mo. My favorite.
We were just talking about how Titanic is an underrated episode.
We were.
It is. If you have not listened to the Titanic, go back to the Titanic. Chip and I crafted a wonderful theory.
Seriously, this is one of our best episodes.
Also, send us all your suggestions for future episodes. I am in the middle of doing National Novel Writing Month, and that means I'm writing like 15-ish episodes or so to get us through the first half of the year so that I can sleep and hibernate like a bear. But I'm really excited about some of the stuff we have coming up. We'll talk about that more in January.
Golden Girls Phoenix Lights, brought to you by NaNoWriMo 2020. Chip has a word count to meet.
Until next time, I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
And it was aliens.
Thank you, Chip.
And it was pterodactyls.
No, you already said it.